What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here. Spurs have been beaten 4-1 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium by Chelsea. Nicholas Jackson scoring a hat-trick. Maurizio Pochettino coming back to haunt Tottenham this time round. But that does not tell the full story of the game by any means. It was an absolutely crazy London derby, reminiscent of the Battle of the Bridge at times, with some of the feisty challenges being put in. Spurs actually took the lead, which feels like a long time ago, when Kulusevski's shot deflected in, and after 5 minutes, Spurs were 1-0 up, but that was when our good luck probably stopped, I should say.
Yeah.
Probably used it all up in the first 5 minutes, the deflection. Son had a goal ruled out for offside. Udogie had a potential red card shout go in his favour. Romero had a red card shout from VAR go in his favour in the first half as well. Chelsea then had a goal ruled out through Raheem Sterling for a handball.
Yeah.
Then Chelsea had another goal ruled out when Caicedo shot deflected off Jackson when he was offside. But preceding that was a Romero red card challenge in the box, which led to a red card and a penalty, which Palmer stuck away.
Vicario
and then
got 2 hands to it.
Vicario gets 2 hands to it. Second half happens. That doesn't even tell the full story. Van de Ven gets a bad injury. He's forced off. Maddison gets an injury. He's forced off. It all went wrong in that first half for Tottenham. And then right at the beginning of the second half, Desi Udogie gets himself sent off with a second bookable offence, which was really reckless again from him. And all of a sudden it became an inverse of the Liverpool game, Tottenham playing with 9 men for the majority of that second half. And it was a brave performance, despite a lot of high line play, a lot of balls in behind from Chelsea, which Vicario was sweeping up time and time again. It did feel like, in my opinion, it was a matter of time before one of them got right and it happened.
Yeah.
And Jackson ended up getting a hat-trick. Although Tottenham did have their chances, didn't they?
Yeah.
Late in the game, and it was a brave performance. But when you take in that performance as a whole, are you coming away with thinking, we showed our immaturity, we got sendings off, and maybe this is like a massive crash down to earth? Or do you come away with it thinking, look, despite the the challenges we faced going down to 9 men, we stuck to our principles, and on another day, even with 9 men, we could have got a draw out of that?
Yes, true. It's a lot to unpack there. That was amazing, your memory, by the way. You should enter a memory competition, like the list of everything that happened. But I am not as downbeat as most people may be after this, especially the way the fans were there at the end, like still cheering us on and stuff like that. My thoughts on it are, the only one I'm really, really angry with, the only player that I can really say, didn't deserve to be on the pitch, was Romero. He's meant to be, one of our captains. He's meant to be part of the leadership group, whatever, vice captain, and he gave it away twice. He got lucky the first time. He could have easily seen red with that challenge.
This was Romero from last season.
Yes, yeah, the worst type of Romero from last season, charging up the pitch, giving them chances. Like their disallowed goal came from him charging up the pitch. Then petulant kicks out and just like going over the top of the ball. You don't need to follow through like that. He did get the ball, to be fair to him, but yeah. Anyway, so Romero is the one that I am now, after this game, because we thought it had gone, but we know he's got this in him. I am now like, long-term succession. He does need to be replaced at some point or moved to the bench, because
based off this game,
even though I think he's one of the best centre-backs in the league when it comes to ability, he's not showing maturity. This is the worst game he's had in a Spurs shirt when it comes to those crazy rushes of blood to the head and stuff like that. And it's going to cost us in a final. It's going to cost us in games at crunch time. Do you know what I mean? If we're ever in a title challenge, he is going to cost this club moving forward. I do believe that. I don't want him to be our only. Or look, if we're going to keep him, we need to have someone equal to him that can come in at any point.
That's definitely true.
Because,
that's what we kept saying in the summer. We need to sign 2 really good centre-backs. And everyone was like, oh, we don't have enough games. It's like, yeah, but it's a long season. You need to have those options.
Exactly.
Like, because of things like this. We knew Romero misses how many games through suspension and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think Romero, my take on it is I agree with the first part. I thought he was really terrible today. It wasn't just the red cards, which by itself, even if he was having a great game with that red card element, I would still heavily criticize him. But he wasn't even having a great game on top of that as well. He was giving the ball away stupidly. He was really showing a lack of quality. I was very disappointed with him. But it was very Romero from what we've seen this season. I guess last season, if you take into the whole of last into account, I can't really say it's uncharacteristic of Romero because we've definitely seen him do this before. But I thought this season, I was hoping anyway, he'd taken on a bit more of a mature role. He'd been a bit more controlled in how aggressive he is. He didn't show that today. No. And I'm very disappointed. I'm very disappointed with him. And he should really look in the mirror about what he put out there today, because he let the team down, especially as being one of the leaders, the leadership group as well. I hope they have a word with him because it wasn't good enough today, and if he does that too often, it is going to cost us. But I'm not saying I'm giving him a pass, but I'm saying I'm not going to start saying, well, I want to replace him long term just yet. But I'm definitely, that sort of thing can't happen again pretty much this season. Yeah, definitely. But everyone else, I don't blame Udogie. You know, he's a kid. Do you know what I mean? And although it's not the way I would have done it, like, I'm not a manager, do you know what I mean? But, like, when it comes to Ange's tactics going down to 9 men, I do think that scoreline is inevitable. Even though it looked good for 30 minutes, do you know what I mean? We got to see Vicario in full flight, like how great he is. What a performance from Vicario.
Amazing.
He deserves a lot of the plaudits when it comes to Spurs.
For him to probably be man of the match and us lose 4-1 is pretty bad, isn't it?
He's probably man of the match on both sides, wasn't he? Yeah, I'm not even surprised. I'm not even joking. Even though Jackson got a hat trick, I didn't even think he had a particularly good game. Yeah. He just kind of had three easy goals.
But but what I wanted to say is, even though all that downbeat stuff, even though I'm a highly pessimistic Spurs fan, I still think this is good long term for us. I know it sounds weird saying that today, but this is where Ange learns about his squad properly. This is where Levy, Ange is banging down Levy's door saying, we need more players. This sort of thing happening before January is a good thing long term, I think. And I think some of our fans that were talking about title races and all that's rubbish, like, they're deluded. I'm sorry. And like, we needed this wake-up call. Do you know what I mean? I wish Van de Ven didn't get injured. I wish we weren't likely going to see like Eric Dyer and Maddison being out and all that sort of stuff. But the rest of it, I think long-term it could help.
A lot of I'm seeing on social media, a lot of people saying it's a moral victory for Tottenham, having lost 4-1. But the way they played down with 9 men, they went down fighting. Would you agree with that?
I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to say. I don't know. Look, it's a moral victory in the sense that the fans are definitely behind this manager. Every kind of fan you can think of, even me, who, I'm always manager out, if you remember. I think this is a brilliant advert for Ange in general, But moral victory, I don't know if I'd go that far because, it's our players that made the mistakes at the end of the day. We were in the lead. And I just sit there and wonder what would have happened if either of Eric Dyer's or Son's goal was onside.
Yeah, I have to say, that would have really changed it. And it's hard to forget, hard to remember, that we were playing so well in those opening exchanges and we were really taking the game to Chelsea and we went 1-0 up and we could have gone 2-0 up and we looked like we had Chelsea on the ropes before everything changed, really. And it seems like the game's got to our head for some reason. And so many players had a rush of blood to the head and let it take them over, unfortunately. And maybe it's a sign of our lack of maturity and our still in-game understanding. We've still got so much to learn. You got to remember, it's such a young team as well. So maybe this was evidence of it. And I think that part of it was like a crash down to earth. But how we played with 9 men and how we still tried to keep the ball and still tried to play a high line, and I know in a way we kind of made things easy for Chelsea in one way, but also still asked different questions for them in another. And I think I got to be proud of Postecoglou and sticking to his principles. And on another day, Dyer had a goal ruled out for just an inch VAR. That was a close one. Bentancur had an unreal chance to make it 2-2. And Son forced to save out Sanchez, and that's all at 2-1. And if one of those goes our way, we're talking about an unbelievable point, even down to 9 men. So I have to give them credit for at least having that in them. But in terms of crashing back down to earth, it's not even the red cards, but first of all, Romero is now out for 3 games. So he's going to miss the Man City game, and he's going to miss the Villa game and Wolves. Maddison picked up an injury. He's gone off in the first half. We don't know how bad it is. He didn't look too happy, but look, we've seen Maddison go off before and he's been okay. So I don't want to say he's going to be definitely out for however long, but we'll have to wait and see. But he's probably going to be out for at least 1 game, I'd assume. And then Van de Ven had a very bad injury, it looks like.
Yeah.
He went off like in serious pain. He could barely walk, clutching off the ball as well, so clutching his hamstring. Those situations for me, it looked like it was a rip.
It looked like Kane, didn't it?
It looked like Kane when he
against City, wasn't it?
Yeah, didn't look like a pull or a strain. I'll be delighted if that's all it was, because if that's all it is, then maybe he'll be back after the international break. But it looks like a rip, and if that is a rip, usually hamstring rips could be at least 3 months.
And for pacey players as well, it's tough for them to come back and sprint to full speed and stuff.
Yeah, and you saw how Dyer, however, look, I want to give Dyer credit because I thought for the majority of the game he did okay when coming on. Like for maybe he came on what in the first half, and for an hour I didn't think he did too much wrong, albeit they were trying to exploit him time and time again, and maybe another day with a bit more quality it would have. But he did all right. But you just saw, as soon as they're in behind, he just doesn't have it in him to do what Van de Ven can do and mop up like he can. And we just saw evidence firsthand. I know we're down to 9 men, so maybe it's not the best example, but you saw evidence of what it's going to look like without Van de Ven there, with Dyer in playing centre back, and that just worries me if Van de Ven is out for what looks like a long time. Yeah,
definitely. And the kind of thing I wanted to ask you is, like, why is it a moral victory that Ange doesn't look at the game state and change his tactics? I'm not trying to question the manager here, but do you remember before this game started, I said the only problem is, can he change it in those moments? You know, those finals, those semi-finals, or crunch games against the big 6, when you do have to be just a little bit different. We've seen City do it to Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? City have gone pragmatic against Arsenal, playing long balls up to Haaland. I want to see, as we evolve, like next season, season after, if Ange can change his tactics sometimes.
I guess what I would say is, Ange, his philosophy, right? I'm not defending his philosophy just for his sake. I'm saying he still tried to win the game. He didn't just try. He didn't just try and sit back and just hope for a draw, basically, and see what he can do. He actively tried to go out there and ask more questions of Chelsea and actually try to win that game.
And do you think that is the best?
Is it the smartest thing to do?
Is that the smartest thing to do for Tottenham long term?
For long term, I'd say yes. For this game right now, probably not. Because I would say long term, when the teams stick to their principles, I think it's just they're just going to make them better as a team at what they're doing, in my opinion. But in the short term, like, obviously we didn't get the result, and maybe we might have got the result if we did do what Liverpool did. And we would have had a better chance of getting something out of the game.
And Liverpool are an attacking team, and they did. Do you know? I don't want to make this a discussion about that, but that's what's in my head right now.
And I hear that. I think
would have changed it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and he changed it, but then again, you'd also argue he didn't have many options. He had a 4-3-1, and then he didn't have any centre backs to bring on.
I'm talking about, not
should he have changed the high line? There's you could definitely make a case for that, because in the end it was our undoing, and that's where the goal came from, and that's where the other 3 goals came from. Yeah. That's where most of their chances came from, was us doing this, what you might call a suicidal high line. Yeah. But that's Ange. He's just going to keep going in that direction. Doesn't matter. We had one man.
Day Aussie R dealers,
literally, like, if we could have one man, Vicario will be standing on the halfway line. He would be there. Just like... Come on, bring it. So look, I commend him, and to be fair, and as I say, on another day it could have been 2-2. And if we're seeing it 2-2, you have to you would have been giving him massive credit for how we approached it with 9 men. And to be fair, before the goal that Jackson scored, I'm not saying we had it easy or they weren't having chances, but like, we were competing. I guess we were competing.
Yeah, it's true.
We weren't just giving them the ball and just saying you have it and try and break us down. We were trying to like take it to them as much as we can with 9 men. So I give him credit for that. But at the end of the day, we're now on the end of a 4-1 defeat, and that he's got to take responsibility for that scoreline at the end of the day. And it's a bad scoreline at home to a London rival, and Look, what I would say is I think the fan reaction says it all. Like the fan at the end of the game, I don't think any other season would have lost 4-1 at home to Chelsea, and the fans are in full voice after the game, and everyone's
100%.
cheering the manager's name.
Yeah.
And I think that just goes to show the belief in the squad and the belief in the team from the fans, and even losing what is a terrible loss, which is at home to Chelsea, a rival.
It doesn't feel like that.
Doesn't feel like a really bad loss, like it is.
Yeah, it doesn't. I'm not like. I don't feel the same way I usually would if it was 11 against 11 and we'd just been outplayed by a team. I feel like, we're going to do them at their gaff later in the season.
Well, anyway. It depends if we've got any players back. But look, I have to wait and see. The only thing is, I'm more concerned about what the rest of the season looks like more than this result, which is hard to say. But we'll talk about that more in the post-match fan show. But thank you, everyone, for joining us on today's watch-along in what is unfortunately been a 4-1 defeat. But thank you for all your super chats, all your views, monstrous views again on the watch-along. Big up to everyone who's tuned in. Thank you, everyone, for getting a super chats in. Let me just get through some super chats who I've missed. Michael Chopra, I don't think it's the real one, but he says, Asna cannot change